So they were just excited to gather on this Living Legacy Sunday to have one of our own, Brother Bill Henderson, amen, who's a longtime member of Brown Chapel, just to share and hear some of your background, sir. We're excited for this moment.
Okay, I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right in a house right on Hoover Street, right over by the big house, by the stadium. Mm-hmm. My family, my mother and father were both from Canada, and I had two sisters. They were born in Canada, but I was born here. I went to Ann Arbor High School, which was the only public high school back then. There's three now, but Pioneer High. And after I graduated, I went to high school there, schooling in Ann Arbor. Then went to, graduated from high school and went to Eastern Michigan. And while I was at Eastern, I was walking across campus one day and there was a Marine recruiter there. And I ended up signing up for a Marine Corps officer program. I really hadn't thought about going into the Marine Corps at that time. I just had walking across campus one day in the fall, my first year. And here's these recruiters, and they talked me into taking a test, and I signed up for the Marine Corps. Mm. The thing was, and I didn't know this when I went in, there were 20,000 Marine officers when I went on active duty. 20,000. Out of that 20,000, there were only 43 black. The Marine Corps was the last service to integrate. There were no black Marines before World War II, and it was primarily a Southern outfit. When I went to boot camp, there were 700 recruits. I only saw one other black recruit that whole summer during that 7-8 week period. So that was a very unique experience. But I didn't know all that when I had signed up. Graduated from Eastern, and you're commissioned as a second lieutenant. Then you go off to what they call basic school for 6 months. Well, I came out of there as a ground officer, and about a year later, I put in for flight school. And I can relate to your wife's sermon this morning about her taking the test for medical school and having failure several times. The test for flight school was the academic side, and then there was a psychological side. So I passed the academic side and real well. Did real well with it. And then when they give you the psychological test, they say, "Oh, this is the easy part. This is just 100 questions. Like, what would you like to do? Rather read a book or work on a car? What was the highest diving board? What kind of things did you like to do, and did you do as a kid?" Well, I kept failing it. I failed it twice. Well, finally, I had a guy pull me aside and said, "Hey, let me tell you how you take the psychological test. You want to show mechanical aptitude, you want to show aggressiveness, and there were two others." He said, "You can look at every one of those questions. What was the highest diving board you dove off of? Whatever the number was, take the highest number. Would you rather read a book or work on a car? Would you rather dive off or jump out of an airplane or go to a movie, jump out of an airplane?" So when I took it that way, I automatically passed. So when I went to flight training, I only saw one other black student that whole 18 months. And I ended up going in the Marine Corps back, and this was during the beginning of the Vietnam War. I'd go in the Marine Corps before the war started. Mm-hmm. And no matter how well you've done in flight training to that point, if you don't qualify and get on that carrier during your time to go to the carrier, you're out of the program. There's no second chance. Well, we'll try it again next month. So no matter how well you did prior, when you go to the carrier, if you don't get aboard, you got to get aboard 6 times. If you don't get aboard, you're through.
You made it through.
Yeah. So the pressure, the pressure is on because you don't want to fail. Mm-hmm. So when you do get complete everything, it's a big. You say, "Hey, I finally got my wings." Mm-hmm. That's the big thing, getting your wings.
Right there. And then after when you left Vietnam, what was your rank at that time?
I was a captain when I went to Vietnam. I was a captain when I came back, and I went to North Carolina for a year. I went to North Carolina for a couple of years, then went up to Virginia for a school for 6 months, amphibious warfare school, back to North Carolina. and I got promoted to major. And I spent about 6 months as a major and got out in 10 years. I had exactly 10 years when I got out.
And then you mentioned that I've heard that you've flown for different, civilian and also with the, did you say the National Guard? Or?
Yeah, during my last year, during the 10th year in the Marine Corps, or the 9th year in the Marine Corps, I got a job offer for General Motors back here in Michigan to fly for the General Motors Corporation Flight Department, flying executives around. So I got out, exactly 10 years to the month when I got out. I got out on a Friday and I went to work for General Motors on a Monday, 2 days later. But I didn't want to throw that 10 years away, so I joined the Air National Guard at Selfridge. I was out a couple years before I got in the Air National Guard and did another 20 years in the National Guard. So I worked at General Motors and flew at Selfridge. Probably we had to go to Selfridge, I had to go about there 6-7 days a month to fly. So I kept pretty busy flying. And when I went in the National Guard, I went in as a major and I retired as a major general, 2-star general.
So you are a retired 2-star general,
right?
With the
Air National,
with the
Air Force.
With the Air Force.
Yes.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been blessed.
You have been blessed.
Okay, I got out of the Marine Corps in I went in 64, got out in 74, and I met Francine about 78 or 79. And we didn't get married till 1990, yeah. But I met her, like I say, I'd been all my active duty time. I grew up in Ann Arbor. I was baptized at Bethel in Ann Arbor. My family wasn't. My father was a custodian in the St. Andrew's Church in Ann Arbor, which was an Episcopal church. I used to work down there in the summertime with him as a janitor, cleaning up and all that. But they were not real church-going folks. So even though I was baptized at Bethel, didn't go there a lot. And the way I ended up at Brown Chapel, Francine had been going to Brown Chapel way before I met her when she was a college student here. So after we got married, and then John Radcliffe was another pilot I was close with, worked for Ford. So between him and her is why I finally started coming to Brown Chapel, and I've been here ever since.
And since you've come here, I know you've served as a trustee, and what are some other things you?
I was steward for a while.
Steward for a while as well.
And even though I'm not serving in any of those capacities now, I still, I'm out here cutting. I do all the things I used to do, just not the meetings.
Yeah.